welcome to another video of Python for Excel users. Uh, in our previous video, we had an introduction of Python. We discussed what Python is. Then we discussed brief history and creation of Python, its features, libraries, data structures, and frameworks. We discussed some common applications of Python, in which fields and in which areas Python can be applied. And then we discussed why we should learn Python and apply Python instead of Excel, or we should prefer Python over Excel, and what benefits does Python has over Excel. Then we discussed the course outlay. Uh, we discussed some features of Python which gives it an advantage over Excel, which were shortly its cross-platform compatibility, its automation feature, and so on. So we discussed the course outlay, and we discussed that we will cover this course in or divide this course in 4 modules, and then we proceeded with the first module. And before that, we proceeded with the installation of Python and installation of Anaconda nucleus, in which we used a utility named Jupyter Notebook. We saw that we can where we can download Python. We saw where we can download Anaconda nucleus, and then we had an understanding of the interface of Jupyter Notebook. How does it look like, and what are its functions and tools? What is kernel? What is cell mode? Then we discussed the cell types and cell modes in Jupyter Notebook. We discussed what is command mode. We discussed what is edit mode. We also discussed that in order to perform any function, we have to be in edit mode. Thereafter, we discussed cell types. There are basically 3 main cell types: code mode, code cell, markdown cell, and raw NB cell. We discussed some features of code cell, markdown cell, and we discussed that raw NB converter will not be used in this course, and it is normally not used because kernel does not loads it. After that, we saw some commonly used shortkeys in Jupyter Notebook, and then we proceeded with the first module of course and started some basics of data analysis. We discussed the types of data. What are the types of data in Python? What is integer? What is float? What is Boolean? What is a string? And what function we can use to identify the type of data. We saw that in order to identify the type of any data, we can or object, sorry, uh, we can enclose that object inside the type function, and when we run this, we get the type of that object. For example, if it's my name, it's an string, so it's an string. If it's a number, it's an integer, and it's int, that stands for integer. If it's a float, a decimal number, it's a float, and answer is float. And Boolean are basically true and false value. So I got Boolean. So these were some of the basic functions used to identify the type of an object in Python. Now let's begin with the methods of Python. and obtain an understanding of what methods are. Uh, a method is basically a function that belongs to an object, and an object is anything on which we want to apply that method. It can be a string, it can be an integer, it can be a list, which we will discuss later in this course. It can be a dictionary, which we will be discussing later in this course. It can be float, and so on. So, a method is a function that is applied or that belongs to an object, and it is applied by using a dot sign after the object on which we want to apply that method or call that method on that object. So let's go to the Jupyter notebook and see how we can use some commonly used methods in Python. So let's go to Jupyter notebook. So we are on Jupyter notebook. Now let's see what are some commonly used methods in Python. So let's see. There are certain methods, some commonly used methods in Python, which are used to change the case of a text. For example, if we want to change the case of a text in uppercase, the method is the upper. If you want to change the case of a method to lowercase, the string to lowercase, if you want to change the case of an string to lowercase, there is a method lower. If we want to change the case of a string in title, there is a method called title. So let's see how we can apply these methods to a text or a string. So let's go back to the Python or Jupyter notebook, and let's begin with my name, uh, Farhan. When I run this, I get the same string, and now I want to change the case of my name to uppercase. I will give a dot after the string and use the upper method, and when I run this, the case is changed to uppercase. Similarly, when I want to change the case of my name to lowercase, I will again take my name, give a dot after the object, and use the lower method. And when I run this, I can see that the case of my name is changed to lowercase. Similarly, again, I can again use my name, and now I want to convert it into title or case of my name in title. So I will use title method, and when I run this, I get the mode converted to title. So we got the code of the text or the case of the text converted into our desired case. One more thing that you are noting that when I am applying multiple methods in a single cell in output, I am only getting the result of last method which I used in the cell. So what if I want all the answers in my output cell? To do so, I'll use print function and enclose each line in print function. So let's see. I'll come to the cell again, convert into edit mode, and then I will type print and enclose the entire expression in the parenthesis. I will do the same with other lines. Print parenthesis, parenthesis closed, and again print parenthesis open and parenthesis closed. And now when I run this, I got all the three answers in the output. So if we want all the codes or results of all the codes which we are applying in a single cell, we use print function. Let's see Other methods used in Python, uh, there are methods which are used to count a particular letter in a text. So let's take the same example, my name, add another cell below the current cell, type my name again, convert the cell into edit mode by pressing enter, and in double quotes, I will type my name, and after my name, I will give a dot and use the count method, and inside the parentheses, I'll get the argument, and that argument will be the letter which I want to count. And if I want to count a string, I must use double quote. So I'll give a double quote, and let's say I want to count the number of A's in my name. So I'll type name, I'll type A, and when I run this, I'll get 2. That is, A is repeating 2 times in my name. Sorry, let me correct the spelling of my name. So here's my name. So A is appearing 2 times in my name. One more thing that we should note that uh, uh, count function search is case sensitive. For example, if I want to search A and instead of typing small a, I mistakenly type capital A, when I ran this, I get 0 because there are no capital A's in my name. So, uh, this should be noted that count search is case sensitive, and if we want to count the number of A's in my name, I must use the same case which has been used in my name. So it's capital, it's small a. So I tap the small a, and when I ran this, I get 2. That is, there are 2 A's in my name. So let's see other functions. There are some other methods which are used to replace a particular letter from a text with another letter, and that method is replace. So let's apply the same method to my name again. Press B to add another cell below the current cell, which is the short key to add new cell below the current cell. Then press enter to convert the cell mode into edit mode. Now I'll type my name again. Uh, and let's say that I want to replace the N in my name with B. To do so, I will give a dot and use replace method, and inside parentheses I'll give 2 arguments. First argument will be the letter which I want to replace, that is N. Then I'll give a comma, and the second argument will be the letter which I want in place of the letter which I want to replace. So if I want to replace N with B, the second argument will be B. Now when I run this, I get the answer, and now I can see that the N in my name is replaced with B. So this was the replace method. So these were few methods which are commonly used in Python. Now let's see how can we work with variables. And before that, let's have an understanding of variables. Uh, Variables are basically letters which are used to store values or data. Uh, and Variable contains a value which is the information that is associated with that variable. For example, if a is equals to 2, then a is the variable and 2 is the information that is associated with a. So a variable contains a value, and that value is associated with that variable, and that value can also be a string. It need not necessarily be a number. We'll see this later. So in order to assign a variable to a value or a string, we type variable, give a is equals to sign, and type the value which we want to assign to that variable. So let's see how we can do that. So let's come back to Jupyter Notebook. Press B to add another cell below the current cell, and let's see. Let's take an example. A journalist asked Imran Khan a question, and that question was, "Will you give Pakistan air bases to America?" Now, when I run this string, I will get the same string. And now, if I want to assign a variable to this string, I will use an equals to sign before that string, because that string is the value which I want to assign to the variable. And it was a question of the journalist, so let's assign it Q, which stands for question. So Q is the variable, and that string is the value that is assigned to that variable. When I'll run this, I see that the answer has disappeared. And what does this mean? This means that it does not give any output, but it stores a value inside a variable. And when I ran this string is stored in that variable, which is Q. And if I want to get the output, I must call that variable in order to get the string. So let's do the same. Let's call that variable in the same cell. If I want to get the string, I will type Q, and when I will run this, I will get the same. So here's the string. So that was the question of journalist, which I assigned Q, and when I write Q, I got the answer. One more thing that we should note, that variables are also case sensitive. For example, if I assigned capital Q to this question, I must use capital Q to get this string. Let's say if I type small q instead of capital Q and run this, I'll get an error because I assigned capital Q to this string, and I must use capital Q to get the same string. So I got the same string. The answer of Imran Khan was absolutely not. When I run this, I get the string, and if I want to assign a variable, it was the answer. So let's use capital A as variable to this string and use equals to sign to assign this string to the variable A. And when I'll run this, the answer again, the output again disappear, and the value of this string is stored in the variable A. And if you want to get this string, I must use capital A to get that string, as the variables are also case sensitive. Now, what if I want to get the answer of both variables in the same cell? Here I can also see that I'm only getting the output of last function which I'm using in the same cell. So what if I want both the answers in my output? I will again use the print function to get both the answers. So I will edit the same cell and I'll use print function, and print function is also case sensitive. That is, all the letters of print are small. Again, I type print and enclose both the variables inside print. And now when I run this, I'll get both the answers. So I get both the string in the same cell. So I get both the answers. So up till now, we created a string, we assigned variables to those strings, and we got the output of those strings from variables. Now, what if I want to combine both the strings in the same cell or same line? Uh, I'll use a plus sign between both the variables. Let's see. For example, Q and A are two variables. Let's add another cell below the current cell. And Q is the first variable. Let's convert the cell mode into edit mode. Press enter to convert the cell mode. Type Q, capital Q, use plus sign and type A. And when I run this, I'll get both the answers combined in a single line. But here I can see that I am getting no spaces between the two strings or two outputs. So what if I want to get a space between the two output or strings? To do so, I'll use two plus signs between the two variables and enclose a space between both the plus signs in double quotes. So let's edit the same cell. I'll come to the cell, press enter to convert it into edit mode. I'll use another plus sign between the two variables, and between those plus signs, I'll use double quotes and give a space inside the double quotes. It shows that whatever is appearing inside the double quotes between the two plus signs is being treated as a string. So the space between the two plus sign enclosed in the double quotes will be treated as a string. And when I'll run this, I'll get a space between the two results or two variables, two strings. What if I want to separate both the strings with a comma sign between the two strings? I'll edit the same cell and I will give space and comma and space. And this comma enclosed in the double quotes will also be treated as a string. And when I'll run this, I'll get comma between the two strings and separated by space. So I got both the strings combined in the same line, and I saw how I can give a space or use any string between the two variables. Now, fstring is another function or feature of Python which can be used for text. So let's see what we can do with fstring. Uh, let's say if I want to type something using fstring, let's add another cell, press B to add another cell below the current cell, and I'll type F, open the single quote, and type the string which I want to print or which I want to appear in output. So let's say it's my name again. I'll close the single parenthesis, and when I run this, I'll get my name. So this is how I can also use fstring to get a string in output. Fstring can also be used to combine two text, and to do so, I will type F and use curly brackets. And if I want to give a space between the two strings, I will use or give a space between the curly brackets. So anything which appears between those two curly brackets will be treated as a string. So let's see how we can use fstring to combine two text. So add another cell below the current cell by pressing B. Press enter to convert the cell mode into edit mode, and now type F, open single quote, open curly bracket, and the first variable and the space, then again curly bracket, curly bracket, the second variable, close the single quote, and when I'll run this, I'll get both the strings and separated by a space, and that space which is given between the two curly brackets. Let's see whether the curly brackets also works as the plus sign. For example, if I want to introduce a comma between these two texts, so let's see whether adding comma between these two curly brackets works the same as plus sign. So let's edit the current cell, give another space, give comma, and run this. When I run this, I got the same answer. So I learned that it also works same as plus sign, and anything enclosed inside double quotes between the plus sign works same as we introduce anything between the two curly brackets in the f string. So this was f string. Uh, so we learned f string. Now, one more thing that we should know that variables can also be assigned to numerical values. For example, let's add another cell below the current cell, and let's say A is equals to, let's convert the mode into edit mode by pressing enter. Let's A is equals to 4, B is equals to 3, C is equals to 8, D is equals to 2. When I'll run this, nothing would happen, but these four values will be assigned to these four variables. Now let's add all these four values using variables. So let's say A plus B plus C plus D. When I run this, I'll get 70 as an answer. So let's verify whether I get the correct answer. So the value of A is 4 plus the value of B is 3 plus the value of C is 8 plus the value of D is 2. When I enter, I get 17. So 17 is the correct answer. So I verified it too. I can also perform other functions, other mathematical functions, but remember the BODMAS method. So let's delete everything and close it. Let's add another cell. And this time, I want to add a value of A and C and subtract B from them and divide the entire answer from 2. So to do so, I'll first convert the cell mode into edit mode, and I'll use bracket sign, and to add A and C, I will type A plus C and subtract B from them and divide the entire answer by 2 or D, which is the value of uh, D. And when I run this, I'll get 4.5. Let's see whether the answer is correct or not. Uh, I'll come back to the calculator. I will add A, which is 4, plus C, which is 8, and subtract 3, which is B. Answer is 9. And when I'll divide it by the value of D, which is 2, I'll get 4.5. So I'm getting the correct answer. Now, if I'll remove the brackets from this operation, then Python will apply a default BODMAS method to get the answer. So let's see what happens. When I remove the bracket, I ran the same function, I get 10.5, which means that Python applied default BODMAS method to calculate the value of operations which are performed in these four variables. So the answer is 10.5. Now, why did it give a different answer this time, and how did it apply BODMAS? So we already know that in BODMAS, we first divide, then multiply, then add, then subtract. So by using BODMAS method, it first divided B from D, which is 3 divided by 2. So it got 1.5. After that, it added A and C, which is 4 and 8. So it got 12. Now it subtracted uh, 1.5 from 12 to get the answer 10.5. Let's see. It first divided the value of B, which is 3, from the value of D, which is 2, and it got 1.5. So the first value is 1.5. Then it added A and C, which is the value of 4 is the value of A is 4 and the value of C is 8. So it got 12. Now, it subtracted 1.5 from 12 and got the answer 10.5, which is result from the BODMAS method. So, that was our video for today. See you again. Allah Hafiz. Thank you for watching.